Welcome to another edition of Ian Cameron's Football Frenzy. It is NFL Week 6. Ian Cameron and Philip Nelson, as usual, we're here to break down the NFL Week 6 card. We are recording this on Friday, so unfortunately, we didn't have Philip with us to talk Thursday night football before the game, but we'll talk about it after the game, which took place last night. Eagles and Giants, and it's been a great NFL run for me the last 3 weeks. We are seeing the board clearly. On fuego is the best way to describe things from an NFL betting standpoint for yours truly the last 3 weeks. I feel like, we're seeing the board clearly. We're reading things very well, and couldn't have read it much better than last night as I was on the New York Giants, the G-Men, plus 7.5 last night against Philadelphia, and they get the outright win over the Eagles last night, and it wasn't fluky. Right from the beginning of the game, Jackson Dart and the offense, success, obviously, moving the ball. I thought Dart had maybe his best game throwing the football last night. He struggled even in the Chargers win in his debut 2 weeks ago. I don't think he was throwing the football great in that game. A lot of it was with his legs running the football. And then, of course, in the Saints, it was a turnover debacle for the Giants in that game against New Orleans. Otherwise, they might have won that game. But last night, they didn't turn it over. Dart, was very good throwing the ball, his best game, and finally the receiver stepped up. That's, to me, what was impressive, too, because you're still without Malik Nabers, who is a difference maker for the New York Giants. But, he had a great game from Wan'Dale Robinson was great. You had many of these other receivers stepping up. Cam Skattebo was a beast on the ground last night. So not only did the Eagles have to worry about the legs of Jackson Dart as a dual threat quarterback, they had to worry about the legs of, obviously, Cam Skattebo as well. Had a little RPO type of thing going on in that game. Of course, Jalen Carter being a late absence from that game for the Philadelphia Eagles was a difference maker. And that's now multiple times this season. Philadelphia's run defense has gone down the shithole without Jalen Carter on the football field. That's got to be a concern, too. If you're Nick Sirianni, if you're Vic Fangio, the defensive coordinator, that without Jalen Carter, you suddenly can't stop the run. And we saw more evidence of that last night in the loss to the New York Giants. So really solid win for the Giants in that game. Dart was efficient, no mistakes. Skattebo with 98 on the ground. Like I said, Wan'Dale Robinson was great. And how about this guy, Theo Johnson? And how about this guy? He's been bounced around team to team, still kicking around, got a chance last night, and had a good game too. Lil Jordan Humphrey, one of my favorite names too in the NFL. Lil Jordan for the New York Giants. He had a great game for them as well last night. One of my endearing images, Phil, of that game last night was, too, once Jackson Dart got banged up on that one hit he took, had to go into the concussion protocol tent, and you can see Brian Daboll just fucking spazzing out and losing it on the sideline with how fucking long it was taking for him to get that protocol check done in the tent, begging the doctor, screaming at them, what the hell is taking so long? We want to get him in there and maybe go for it here on fourth down. Russell Wilson comes in for one play, can't throw a pass worse than he did on that one play, right into the turf. Crowd boos. Brian Daboll's going nuts. Where the fuck is Jackson? We need him back in there. What's taking so long? My endearing image of Brian Daboll from that game last night.
Yeah, and I think I actually just saw on ESPN they're reporting that the Giants are under investigation now for the concussion protocol on that. Which, right away I was like, Daboll, man, Jackson Dart got messed up, man. He was in there. My wife claimed that she saw on the TV his eyes go up. So did he get banged up or
They took their time for a very good reason. He looked like
he got hit hard, and so that's kind of funny. But yeah, you mentioned it. Very impressed with Jackson Dart. His patience in the pocket. He seemed like he didn't really have the happy feet that he had the first two games. So I thought that he did a really good job maneuvering the pocket, moving around. He was making. The Eagles looked like they could not tackle last night. So that was another big thing. Some of those throws in there. The jump pass on the corner route that he threw, basically where he stood in there, took the hit, and he just rotated and got that ball out right in the corner route. Very impressed with the kid. So. I think Jackson Dart and Skattebo just bring this whole new energy and vibe to this team, and I think it's making everyone kind of believe in it a little bit. And so, a victory like this is going to really change the trajectory of their season now moving forward. Other side of the ball, Saquon just not getting the touches that he needs to get, I think is just a huge problem for that Eagles offense. And The Eagles have a lot of soul searching to do right now. I don't think it's only the offensive coordinator. Jalen Hurts missed some throws. The out route was late and behind the receiver there, Dotson, and then he missed a wide open Devontae Smith. So you can't at this point blame that whole game entirely on the offensive coordinator, but Jalen Hurts, I think there's plenty of blame to go around there, and I think this is an offense and a team that just needs to come together at this point.
And they are not at the moment anyway, and that's definitely a concern. You mentioned how Daboll needed to calm down a little bit. Former punter of the Giants, Lawrence Tynes, we remember him from back in the day. He said, "Real bad look, Daboll," on Twitter. Why the hell are you yelling at? And he was yelling at the team doctor, Dr. Rodeo, on the sideline. Have some damn composure and respect. You know what that is? Feeling for your job security makes you do fucking crazy things. And
you see all those
your job security is tied to Jackson Dart because based on Russell Wilson and what we've seen from him, which has been terrible, the only chance of you winning football games this year is Jackson Dart being at quarterback. And so
and I mean, when Jackson Dart came in, against the Chargers and they go down the field and score, and I saw some like a viral video of the way Daboll was looking at Jackson Dart, and it's like, when you realize your job might be saved after all.
Yeah.
And I mean, you're right though. Like, I mean, it's, that's not a good look to be sitting there yelling at, trying to get him back in there. Cause trust me, I've been in that scenario a million times where, you get banged up just enough where you're seeing some stars. That's considered a concussion nowadays. I don't think he should have gone back in the game per NFL protocol here, but
they're investigating.
Who knows what goes on in the tent? I don't know.
They're investigating it because they clearly think maybe he was put back into the game when he shouldn't have been. That maybe, I don't know if that's he didn't clear it and they still put him back in, or that they rushed the process and maybe didn't go through the full process and just did, once Daboll was losing it on the sideline, then all of a sudden maybe they sped it up and just said, all right, I think he's good, and back in. Who knows?
Right.
Like I said, it was just very interesting that once Daboll was losing it, all of a sudden he comes out and he's back in there.
And you know what, man, just being the ex quarterback here, man, as corny and weird. And
you ever have a coach rushing to get you back out there when you had something like that?
Yeah, I mean, but hey, as corny and weird as Russell Wilson can be, I felt so bad for him to go in there, throw that one ball, and have the whole stadium boo him. Dude, I was like, wait, that had to have been tipped. And like,
that's right.
They did not show a replay of that. And I'm like, man, like I rewinded it. I tried to see exactly if that ball got tipped, because that thing was like, it was grossly thrown. I mean, it was like a high school quarterback would have thrown a better ball than that. So not sure what happened there.
I don't know what throw was worse, that throw or the throw by Keckering, the Phillies reliever last night. Game against the Dodgers. Both were pretty bad. Of course, his issue is not necessarily the throw was terrible to home plate in that baseball game, but the worst part of it was the decision he made to throw it to home when he should have thrown it to first, and he would have gotten the guy out by a mile, and maybe your season's still going.
Oh, jeez.
That's another sport. That's another story. Yeah. All right, on we go here in week 6, rather, here in the NFL. I just did the CFL show, so that's why I almost said week 19. It's week 19 in the CFL. It's week 6 in the NFL. There is no week 19 in the NFL, but here we go with week 6 here in the NFL. The remaining games, all of them Sunday and 2 on Monday night this week. We'll begin with another European showcase game over in London, England. Denver and the New York Jets. Broncos 7-point favorites, 43.5 the total. This game, Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in London, which is where the Minnesota-Cleveland game was last Sunday. Again, 9:30 a.m. Eastern kickoff here in this game. Jets are unbackable. The only question is, now do you want to lay 7 with Denver? That's the decision for me. It's not backing the Jets, because I cannot back to the Jets. I will not back the Jets. That's how much of a shit show it is right now. And I couldn't care less that they, Justin Fields and the offense racked up all the yards and all the points in the second half when they were down big. That doesn't matter to me. When the game was on the line against the Dallas Cowboys in the first half last week, you got your asses handed to you by a Dallas team that is, mediocre at best, in my opinion. And a Dallas team that defensively is not very good, and you could not do a thing really moving the football and finishing drives in that first half against Dallas last week. So it's just the constant issues here. And it seems like you could get Adam Gase, you could get Todd Bowles, you could get, all these different coaches they've had over the years that just it hasn't panned. Robert Saleh, doesn't matter. And Aaron Glenn, it's just the Jets do the same things every year. Don't look prepared. Penalties galore, pre-snap penalties that just you scratch your head, all the false start penalties, all the holding penalties, illegal formation, legal formation too. They've had a lot of these lately too, the Jets. Like, this is just lack of discipline, not being coached properly by Glenn. But this is just the type of things the New York Jets do. Turn the ball over. I mean, it's just endless, the mistakes that we continue to see from this team. They are now 0-5 on the season, this Jets team. And the funny thing is, they faced a part of their schedule where, Miami and Dallas, the last two games, I think the Jets viewed them as winnable games. And now here they are losing both of those games. Now you got to travel all the way to London, England, and play the Denver Broncos, who are coming off the big upset win against Philly 21-17, although with the Eagles' current plight, which we just talked about, maybe not as impressive as that win appeared against the Eagles a week ago. But nevertheless, back-to-back pretty good efforts from Denver. They dominated Cincinnati. That's not saying much either with the way the Bengals have struggled here with Jake Browning at quarterback. But nevertheless, I think when you look at this game, I don't know how the Jets are going to – the Denver defense is very capable. Don't really see how the Jets are going to have a ton of offensive success here in this game. Fields was awful in that game. Like I said, the offensive line too, they continue to have problems as well. The run game has been non-existent. They can't get much going with Breece Hall right now, the Jets. You have Garrett Wilson, and you don't have a lot of other people stepping up at receiver either for the Jets. And Pat Surtain is going to be all over Wilson here in this game. Who the hell is going to step up at receiver? So I think this is one of these games where I've got Denver in a couple of teasers down to -1. I played them as a teaser leg on a couple of 2-team 6-point teasers. I don't feel like I'm in love with laying a full 7 on the road, but there's just no chance I can trust or back the Jets right now in their current situation. I'd lean to the under a little bit here as well, 43.5. I think this is a game where points could be a little bit harder to come by. I don't know if Bo Nix necessarily. The Jets defense is weird, right? They got just chewed up by Dallas last week. They did struggle against Miami. It's not been a very good the Tampa Bay had some success. Buffalo, their defense has been disappointing too. 34-30, 29, 27, 37. But I just get that sense with Bo Nix and this Broncos team, a long way away from home, they're not going to light it up here. Maybe they do because the Jets defense is that bad, but I think it's going to be more of a, move the chains, mercurial, methodical offensive approach here from the Broncos in this game. And then I don't think the Jets do a lot of damage offensively here against this Broncos defense. So lean under. Phil, what do you think here for London, England showcase on Sunday morning, Broncos Jets?
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that one with the under. I just these London games, they just tend to be a little bit different, slower moving. Offenses don't tend to really light it up on Tottenham Field. The Jets, offensively, yeah, again, they're not going to really be, I don't think they're going to be moving it. But if they do, it'll be methodical. It'll be, kind of like the Miami game where it's, rip off a few decent runs here and there and get all the way down there, then turn the ball over. So with that being said, that's exactly how I see the Broncos offense right now. They're not necessarily, making any large splash plays by any means over the last few games. So with that being said, I think this is going to be a slow moving, methodical type offensive played game, which is why I would lean towards an under here. Don't love the spread here as well, just because I think it's going to be so low scoring that it could end up being a little bit closer than we think, and kind of weird, being over there. But I'm pretty confident in an under for this game.
All right, next up, we've got the rest of the games, obviously, now 1 p.m. Eastern, the next set of games, Cleveland and Pittsburgh, AFC North battle. Pittsburgh 6-point home favorites, 38.5 the total. You got Pittsburgh. This is definitely, if you're talking just strictly situational spot handicapping, huge advantage Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's off a bye week. Pittsburgh's at home. Cleveland's coming back from London, where they lost a heartbreaker last week against the Minnesota Vikings. Starting Dylan Gabriel, obviously, for the second week in a row at quarterback. They had benched Joe Flacco, and of course now Joe Flacco has been subsequently traded this past week to the Cincinnati Bengals, and we'll get to them obviously later on. But I'll say this about Gabriel. For his first NFL start, long way away from home, against a Minnesota team that with Brian Flores, we always talk about, the blitz packages and the blitzing tendencies he's going to throw at a rookie quarterback. That can sometimes be a recipe for disaster. Thought all things considered, he played an okay game in his debut, Dillon Gabriel. Honestly, considering, he's talking about a team that blitzes. He didn't make any mistakes, 19 for 33. Did he light it up passing yardage wise? No, 190 passing yards, but 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, no mistakes from a guy making his first NFL start against a team that can throw a lot of pressure at you at the quarterback. So I think it was all pretty solid, all things considered. Now, it did help that Quinshon Judkins had a huge game on the ground, 110, and obviously takes a lot of pressure off your rookie quarterback in his first ever start, when you can have success running the football like that. Now you look at this Pittsburgh team coming off, obviously they also are coming off a win against Minnesota the week before they didn't play in London. They played in Germany, I believe, that Pittsburgh-Minnesota game a couple weeks ago, and it was Pittsburgh with the 24-21 victory over the Minnesota Vikings in that game. But they haven't played since. They're off the bye. Tomlin, long-term, Mike Tomlin, not just good, great off a bye in his coaching career. I jumped on Pittsburgh early in the week. They were -4 in some spots. It's gone up to 6. I think it's just too difficult a spot for Cleveland, on the road again after coming back from London, readjusting to being back in North America and the time zone change and then all the travel and all the pomp and circumstance that went with playing in London last week. A rested Pittsburgh team. Now, the one concern with this number now being at -6, Philip, is very simple. This Aaron Rodgers-led passing attack has still not been great. A lot of it has been just dink and dunk stuff, other than the one big bomb he had to DK Metcalf against Minnesota 2 weeks ago. That was really the one passing highlight for Aaron Rodgers in that game. The passing game is still not fully there. A lot of it has been meandering for Pittsburgh throwing the football. They haven't had those big explosive vertical shots necessarily from Aaron Rodgers so far this year. So that's a bit concerning when you're talking about laying 6. This is a very difficult number. There's a very difficult spot, I should say, for the Cleveland Browns. And it is worth noting that 3 of the last 4 times the Steelers have hosted the Browns, it's resulted in a double-digit Pittsburgh victory. So I'd still lean Pittsburgh, maybe bet him a little smaller now with the number having gone up a little bit. But I think it's a very difficult spot here for the Browns this week. Phil, what do you think? Cleveland, Pittsburgh?
I agree. I think, the Browns coming off last week and, especially going up against a well-rested Steelers team that, quite honestly, had a great performance offensively against the Vikings. Who knows? Maybe they kind of, hit a stride here moving forward. My one concern, though, is that Steelers offensive line versus that Browns defensive line, which the Browns have just given fits to everyone all year. But I think actually Steelers dink and dunk offense almost kind of helps, alleviate some of that pressure. And I think Aaron Rodgers is he's the smart, savvy veteran. He's not the guy who's going to be running around necessarily. He doesn't want to be like that. So he's going to be looking to get the ball out of his hands quickly here. The Steelers' run stopping defense was kind of bad earlier in the year. It got a little bit better as of recently, but the other end, the Browns' running game looked really good last weekend. So I just see this as a classic AFC North, going to be a defensive battle type think and dunk, be methodical down the field. I'd lean Steelers here, just given the circumstances here, and especially the statistic you just said. 3 of the last 4 games in Pittsburgh, Steelers have double-digit victories. Is that what you said?
That's correct.
Wow. I mean, that's a pretty damning stat there. So I think just given the circumstances and history as of right now, I'd lead Steelers here as well. This total is a tricky one, though, too, because I don't really see the Browns moving it too much. But, again, Dillon Gabriel, he did exactly kind of what I thought he'd do and just kind of manage the game. He didn't really put the ball in harm's way too much. 190 yards, 2 touchdowns. I think he was only sacked twice. So, solid performance, and we'll see if he can build off of that.
Not to mention 3 of the 4 Pittsburgh games have gone over this number, 38.5. That speaks volumes about how, I was thinking under 2 in this game, but 38.5, no chance.
Yeah, it's just too. Yeah, it's not. Yeah, so
you're gonna
I'd go Steelers in an over then.
Yeah, you need a clean ride. And here's the thing: the run game. You're right. Pittsburgh's run defense was concerning. Much better against Minnesota 2 weeks ago when the Steelers, the run defense, they shut down Jordan Mason. And 70 rushing yards on 20 carries for Minnesota in that game. Like Minnesota couldn't get the run game going. But my question is, was that the Steeler run defense shoring themselves up, or was that Minnesota's offensive line that had some issues in that game?
Right.
We're going to find out this week because you're right. Judkins ran it very well against Minnesota last week. And if he does that again here, maybe it's going to give Dillon Gabriel and the Browns a chance to hang around. But like I said, I think the spot is really tough for them. It's actually their 3rd road game in a row. If you think about the fact they played in Detroit before they went to London, and now Detroit to London, England, and now to Pittsburgh. 3rd straight game away from home for the Cleveland Browns. So it is a bit of a tough spot. Arizona, Indianapolis. We've got the Colts 7-point home favorites, 47 the total in this game. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Sometimes the best thing you can do in this sports betting and handicapping thing that I've done full time now for over a decade is just don't overthink it. Don't overcomplicate it. What's been cashing for me all season, and including last week in the Colts home game against the Las Vegas Raiders, a lot of times last year this cashed for me as well. Team total over for the Colts at home. It's just been almost automatic. That this team just finds their way to 28, 31, 35 points, something along those lines when they play on their home field. And Indianapolis is doing it again this year. Daniel Jones, let's give him credit. It's, he's definitely in the running for comeback player of the year. There's no question about that with the way he has played. But it's not been all Daniel Jones. We have to give the O-line credit. They've been solid. And we have to give Jonathan Taylor a lot of credit. He's now looking like the running back we thought he was capable of being for this Colts team. He's running the football with great fervor, with tremendous success, and Daniel Jones is taking care of the rest. And again, last week against, albeit a Las Vegas team that has clearly been pretty bad, still a good performance. Again, mistake-free, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, 212 through the air. What's been impressive about Daniel Jones here is that he's completing 72% of his passes. That's a phenomenal completion rate. Like, there's just not many footballs hitting the turf when he goes back to throw the football. He's been extremely efficient so far. He's had the run game to rely on, and it's been a very good offensive team here throughout the season. Even in the road game against the Rams, they scored 20 points in their one loss against the Rams, and that's that game where A.D. Mitchell lost his damn mind, and like DeMercado did for this Arizona team last week with dropping the damn football at the goal line or before the goal line. This stuff that drives me nuts. I'll tell you this right now, and DeMercado did this for Arizona last week. Could you imagine, Phil? I wasn't on them. Thankfully, I hope you weren't either. Could you imagine being on Arizona in that game last week against Tennessee? That is one of the all-time bad beats from a betting standpoint in the NFL. Regardless of what number you had them. They're up 21-6. Tennessee's got nothing going for them. DeMercado is about to make it 28-6. All he has to do is hang on to the fucking football and not drop it before the goal line. And they go up 28-6, and it's game over because there was like 11 minutes left in the fourth quarter. It would have been game over. Of course, you knew the moment he did that crap. Somehow, some way, despite doing nothing the whole game, Cam Ward and the Tennessee offense was going to get something going. And sure enough, down the field, touchdown, 21-13. And then there was that play where it looks like they've got the turnover of Tennessee, and Arizona fumbles it, and Tennessee recovers it in the end zone. Are you shitting me? We should have had that interception. And Tennessee recovers it in the end zone. Butterfingers on the Cardinals there, can't hang on to it. 21-19, they missed the 2, and sure enough, Tennessee gets a stop, late in the game, takes over the ball and gets into field goal range. That's a sickening loss for Arizona. And I don't know how they bounce back here in this spot. I don't know if you recover mentally from a loss like this. I know there's a lot of season left. I know the record for Arizona is not, at a point where they're 2-3. It's not like, season's over. A lot of football ahead. they can turn things around. But God, that is a freaking horrendous, brutal loss, bad as it gets last week for them against Tennessee. And there's a ton of issues for Arizona right now. The defense is not coming up with the timely stop. They struggled with Seattle. Seattle was moving the football up and down 2 weeks ago against them. And this offense is not great. They have no run game without James Conner. The O-line stinks. The O-line's not good for this Arizona team right now. And Kyler Murray is pedestrian at best. I'm being kind when I say that. There's been so many times this year, drives where he's missing open receivers. Marvin Harrison Jr. has been a mess at times. You remember that Seattle game where the ball's right in his hands and he's bobbling it, and it results in an interception the other way. Jonathan Gannon looks frustrated in his post-game press conferences. It's a bit of a bad feeling I'm getting. Bad vibes on the field, bad vibes off the field right now with Arizona. So it's a tough team to back. And normally, Philip, Arizona's a team I like to back on the road in the underdog role. This is the role that's been good for them. They haven't been very good at home, ATS, but they've been good on the road, and they've been especially good getting points. I should want Arizona at this number. I should. And I think in years past, I probably would be betting Arizona at this number on the road because they've been a good road dog under Kyler Murray over the years. But there's a lot of bad things I'm getting bad vibes I'm getting from Arizona. I don't like what I'm seeing on the field. The eye test tells me they're just not a very good football team right now. So I'm just going to stick with what's been working. And that for me has been Indianapolis team total over. And it's 27.5 for the Colts team total over. 33 against Miami at home in week 1. 29 at home against Denver in week 2. And 40 burger last week against Las Vegas at home. So in the 3 home games this year, the Colts have scored 33, 29, and 40. And all 3 would go over their team total of 27.5, which is what we see here for this game. And go back to last year, too. Now, this was last year when they didn't have Daniel Jones. And you look at some of these home results, 38 against Tennessee. Go back further. They were scoring into the 30s a lot last year at home, this Colts. And they didn't even have as good a team or season as they're having right now. So that's what I'm going to go with. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Don't overthink it. You've been winning with this bet, Ian. Don't change the process. And I'm betting it again here. Colts team total over 27.5. Philip, what do you think here? Arizona, Indy.
Yeah, it's interesting you say the history of the Cardinals on the road. But I think the eye test and just the vibes that you're feeling, I think that you're spot on here. I think that the vibes are low with the Cardinals right now.
Their 2 wins are Carolina and New Orleans.
Well, I was just about to. I just pulled up their schedule. I mean, you got a 7-point victory versus one of the worst teams in the league. You let Carolina come back into that ball game. Terrible team. You lost to a depleted San Francisco team. Seattle, decent. They played a little bit better there, but still had some major issues. They should have won that game, really, and Seattle's a good team. And then that horrible loss against Tennessee. So you know what? I'm not touching Cardinals here. I team total over, and honestly, I think the Colts are better than a touchdown here. The only saving grace here, the only argument I can think of for the Cardinals is that they have the 8th best rush defense in the league right now, and obviously there's going to be a heavy dose of Jonathan Taylor, but I'm just betting on the fact that the Colts are just a better coach team. They have more talent. I think they're better than a touchdown in the Cardinals.
I forgot to mention this, and I should. It's not even a given that Kyler Murray plays because he missed practice, although he returned to practice earlier today. So that's a sure sign that, that probably means he's going to play. If he came, and he did, he came back. He didn't practice yesterday or Wednesday, but he returned to practice today. And so that kind of tells me he's going to be good to go. Because if it wasn't going to be him, it was going to be Jacoby Brissett getting the start here for the veteran journeyman quarterback. But it looks like Kyler Murray is going to play here for Arizona in that game. All right, Rams and Ravens. The Rams 7-point road favorites, 44.5 the total here in this game. If you thought it's bad for Baltimore coming off what we have seen from them here these last couple of weeks, with obviously the loss to Kansas City. That's the game Lamar Jackson got injured in. And obviously this just woe-begotten, battered, bruised, depleted, decimated, injury-riddled defense that gives up to the Houston Texans, who have had O-line problems galore all season long, an offense that hasn't been lighting it up at any point. And they roll into Baltimore last week and put a 44 on the board against this Baltimore defense. So that tells you all you need to know. And the thing is, this defense really isn't getting anybody healthier from what I see. You're still going to be without so many players on that side of the football right now. Nate Wiggins may not play. You got Malachi Starks. You've got Keon Martin. Of course, you've got Matt Abuike has been shut down for the year. Now, they did have Kyle Van Noy come back at least last week, but it certainly seemed like he didn't make much of a difference because they still gave up 44 points to the Houston Texans in that game. I mean, they got half their defense still out, at least, this Baltimore team. So, you know, I've been picking on them with either over, like I was on Houston and the over last week. That's probably where I got to go here. There is some rain in the forecast in Baltimore for this game on Sunday afternoon. But as I often say, as long as it's not going to be too windy, windy's the bigger issue and concern when it comes to betting overs. You can't do anything with a Baltimore total right now except bet over, in my opinion, because that's how bad this defense has been for them. And meanwhile, Cooper Rush will probably get the start again at quarterback because obviously no sign that Lamar Jackson is going to be ready, not practicing today. So he is definitely going to be out again, which means Cooper Rush is going to get the start once again. It was a rough day for Cooper Rush last week, but Houston's defense is good. Houston does have a very good defense. And with a second start now, I would expect him to play a little bit better. So I do kind of like over 44.5 here. Again, watch the weather. There could be some rain, but it's not enough to get me off this total, 44.5. I think still we can get up and over that total. And I'm going to go one step further here and not only take the Rams -7, put the Rams in teasers, but I'm going to look maybe at a Rams double result here as well in this game, which is a bet that I often like. It'll be around -115 or so. Rams to lead at halftime and Rams to win the game. That is what the Rams double result bet is. I think that's probably worth a look here in this game because even though Baltimore's a wounded team, 1-4, battered defense, no Lamar, I don't think the Rams are going to take the Ravens lightly, not after losing that game the way they did against San Francisco Thursday Night Football last week, where they got behind early. Mac Jones was slicing them up. The defense struggled. They made a valiant comeback attempt. But then again, of course, they went for it when they were driving to maybe win the game with a touchdown on that 4th and 1 where they just ran it up the gut and it didn't work. And Sean McVay's, cursing himself out in the post-game press conference saying, I screwed up. I put us in a bad spot. It was a bad play call on my part. I feel sick for these guys because I cost us. I mean, credit to him, too, for saying it. I don't believe that it was all on him and that play call at the end of the game that cost them against San Francisco. But the fact he would even say it tells you he's got his players back. I like that from Sean McVay. Frustrating loss. I think the Rams, if they have full focus, Philip, on Baltimore in this game, this could be another ugly double-digit home loss here for the Ravens. What do you think here, Rams-Ravens?
Yeah, I agree with you here. I think the Rams coming, off of an ugly, well, not ugly loss, just a loss they want to have revenge on. Yeah. Long weekend to think about it, get healthy, all that. So I think the Rams, again, like you said, they're not going to take this one lightly. Sitting at 3-2, they definitely need a win here and should win here. The one thing I will say, I just looked this up. Kyle Hamilton, Marlon Humphrey, and Ronnie Stanley, and Patrick Ricard, and Chidobe
Awuzie. There you go.
Yeah. They all practiced today, so it sounds like they are maybe getting slightly healthier. But if that's the case, because my main thing here right now is Ravens defense just looks atrocious, just absolutely terrible. So if that's the case, I just really think that the Rams offensively, they're going to give them fits. And then also that Rams defense, I really like that. Cooper Rush and what the Ravens have going offensively right now is pathetic. So I think that the Rams, I think they're better than a touchdown here. And I don't know about this total here because I just don't have any faith in the Baltimore offense. But, I wonder what's the Rams team total over, by chance?
That's another thing I was going to say. I'm on like what I've done here is I've got the over 44.5. The Rams bets are all split equally, like in quarters. Rams -7, Rams in a teaser, and Rams team total over 26.5. Yeah.
Okay.
The team total.
Yeah, I like that. I like that the most, actually. Rams team total over.
It's hard to trust them keeping the Rams below 4 touchdowns.
Right.
With what we've seen from them. Now, this does help that Hamilton and Humphrey may play. That's big for their secondary. especially when you're matched up against Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams, and Matt Stafford has found great chemistry with them. So if they get those guys back, great, but they're still missing a lot of. There's no pass rush on this Ravens team right now, especially with Madubuike out, and that means. And we always say this about Stafford: if he gets time to throw the football, that's what will teach you. And by the way, if you're concerned about early start for a West Coast team traveling east, historically McVay's been better than a lot of coaches with West Coast teams going on these East Coast road trips for early start games. Look at this year as an example. At Philadelphia for an early start game, they should have won that game. I know they lost, but they led most of the game. They played well. They should have won. And then, of course, the other early start game for them traveling east from the West Coast was at Tennessee, and they won that game 33-19. So they've had no problem with these early start games for a West Coast team traveling east. We'll see if that continues. All right, Seattle, Jacksonville. Jacksonville 1-point home favorites, 47.5 the total. This total's really gone up, 43.5 to 47.5, 4-point move. It's really hard to argue with it because Seattle's defense has not played as well, Philip, just by watching them the last couple weeks. They let Arizona back into the game, an Arizona offense that hasn't been great. They let them back into the game Thursday night a couple weeks ago. Didn't like seeing that. They had no answer whatsoever for Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers last week. That was as bad as it gets for Mike McDonald's defense. A defense that had been playing pretty well. So I'm a little concerned about Seattle's defense and the fact that I thought the defense was really, really good. I'm not so sure now because I looked then at the first 3 games where they played a banged-up Purdy in San Francisco, Pittsburgh with Rodgers, who, work in progress, and New Orleans. And they feasted on those teams for their defensive numbers. Then they played Arizona. They struggled a bit more. And then they played probably their first legit upper echelon quarterback and offense in the NFL, Tampa Bay, last week, and they got lit up. They gave up 38 points and lost that game 38-35. That's the bad news for Seattle. The good news for Seattle is Sam Darnold, Bill, keeps playing well. The offense looks good for the Seahawks. They've scored 31, 44, 23, 35 in the loss to Tampa last week. 4 touchdowns for Darnold, 341 through the air. You got Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker on the ground. You've got a really good receiving core. A.J. Barner, Torrey Horton, the veteran Cooper Kupp, and especially Jackson Smith-Njigba, who's been great here for Seattle. I think I agree with the total going up. I do. I mean, Jacksonville with that huge win for them against Kansas City, but I don't think the defense it's been better. But I talked about the over in that Kansas City-Jacksonville game on Monday night, one of my winners last week. And the reason I liked the over was because prior to facing Mahomes and the Chiefs, Philip, the quarterbacks they played, injured Brock Purdy, Bryce Young, Jake Browning, and who's the other quarterback they played? It wasn't very impressive. Those were the quarterbacks Jacksonville played the first few weeks. Bryce Young, an injured Brock Purdy, Jake Browning, it wasn't pretty.
Right.
In the first few games they played, the Jacksonville defense. Then they played Mahomes, and they definitely struggled a little bit more. I know they won the game, but they won it because of the heroics of the offense and Trevor Lawrence in that game with the 31-28 win. But the defense showed that against a team that's got something, bringing something to the table from an offensive perspective, especially at the quarterback. Oh, Houston was their other win, and Houston's offensive lines at the time was struggling, and at the time that Houston offense was just week in and week out, not moving the football, putting up big points. So that's why I thought the Jacksonville defensive numbers, as impressive as they looked for Liam Cohen's team going into that Kansas City game, I thought a lot of it was just a weak offensive schedule that they played. And sure enough, Kansas City had success. I think Seattle will have success. But I think Jacksonville, look, Lawrence and ETN's running the ball, and we're starting to see these receivers step up for this Jacksonville Jaguars team. The last, especially that game against the Chiefs, with really good performances from Brian Thomas Jr. finally, Travis Hunter, Parker Washington. So I think I'm in agreement and on board with people betting this total up. As far as the side, I wouldn't want to take Jacksonville here. Short week. They celebrated that game immensely, as you would expect. It's a franchise that was crying out for a signature win, right? Like they got against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, who have been to every recent Super Bowl just about. Signature win, but coming off a win like that and a rookie head coach, I worry about a fall off and a hangover from a win like that. in a spot like this. And it's not like Everbank Stadium in Jacksonville is the most staunch, dangerous home field in the NFL. You can go into Jacksonville and win football games. And I think with Seattle coming off the frustrating loss to Tampa, I haven't moved on the side yet, but put it this way. I'd rather have Seattle off the frustrating loss than Jacksonville on a short week off the massive victory. What do you think here, Phil? Seahawks, Jags?
Yeah, I agree with you. I need to see it from Jacksonville a little bit more to fully get on board here, but I think that's Seattle offense.
Well, you're on board the offense and Liam Cohen because you're big.
Yeah, just defensively for the most part here, and I mean, Jaguars I'm seeing they're allowing 4.6 yards per carry this season, and then Seattle, who can not only throw the ball well, but they also have a run dominant offense as well. I think they're going to be able to methodically move the ball down the field on them. So, but that being said, I just again them coming off a tough home loss, I think they're going to be ready to go, ready to play. I'm probably going to lean Seahawks here, +1 here. But I agree with you. I think this over could definitely go. The Seahawks defense hasn't been what we thought it would be, just based on who they played and how they've been playing as of recent. So I'm with you on that as well. I think 47.5 is a lot, but we'll see here. I'm more confident in just the Seahawks basically in a pick 'em than I am this over at this. That's 47.5 anyway.
All right, Dallas and Carolina. We got Dallas 3-point road favorites, 49 the total in this game. I kind of want to fade Dallas in this spot because the Jets were so bad it made Dallas look better than they thought, but that people might think. But I don't like the concept of betting below average teams off of win, especially the kind of win Carolina had last week against Miami. That was every bit Miami choking. As it was, Carolina coming back and winning that game because Carolina was terrible to start that game. And it looked like Miami was going to absolutely put them away early. Because, look, the Dolphins, they had a 17-0 lead early in the second quarter. And they only scored a touchdown after that. And that was the Tua to Jalen Waddle touchdown. After that, it was all Carolina. Bryce Young started moving the football. Credit to Rico Dowdle as well, who filled in for an injured Chuba Hubbard at running back for Carolina. He had a pretty good game for them. That's a terrible loss for Miami. Horrible the way they botched that thing. Credit to Carolina. Dave Canales said it, no quitting the team. But I remember the last time Carolina was off a great win against Atlanta at home. They shut out the Falcons 30-0. And I will say this, they are 2-0 at home this year in Charlotte. So they played well here at home, and they are at home again for this one. The last time they were off a win, they laid an egg in New England and got crushed by the Patriots 42-13 the very next week. It's just, I've seen this before in the NFL. If you're a below average team, a lot of times you get your win and you exhale. And the next week, you're just either flat or you don't play up to that same level. And if that happens here, Dallas is still good enough that they can probably go in there and win. And another thing, too, is I'm still not totally on board with the Panther defense. And the one thing about Dallas is they've got flaws, and the defense is still rough unless you play the Jets, of course, and then your defense looks great. And we saw that last week for Dallas. But their defense is still banged up. It's not a defense I trust laying points on the road. But I will say this offense, without CeeDee Lamb, for Dak Prescott to be playing the way he is, he's been phenomenal, Phil. And I know he's a very, very controversial person for NFL pundits and bettors and fans to talk about and debate about because some people love him, some people hate him. You can't hate the way he's played this year. He has been excellent. He has given Dallas every opportunity to win games, and he is almost carrying this team. Why is this team 2-2-1? Dak Prescott is why. Dak Prescott is why, and he's doing everything in his power, to carry this team through defensive issues and obviously some key injuries and being without the top receiver, CeeDee Lamb. Pickens has stepped up. Jake Ferguson's been good. Where the hell did this Ryan Flournoy come from? Because this guy all of a sudden has come out of nowhere for Dallas and given them a spark at receiver. And they've been running the football better, lo and behold. Javonte Williams, just asked the Jets defense. They couldn't stop him on the ground last week. So the side, you can tell I'm back and forth. I don't think I can lean either of these two ways. And as far as the side goes, I guess I lean Carolina because they're a home dog, and Dallas is on the road for a second straight week. That's not easy, but I don't know if I fully trust Carolina to win 2 games in a row. What I like in this game is the over, and it's gone up, and I know it's a high total. It's 49. We're talking about needing to get into the 50s here to cash this ticket, but I think the offenses are the superior units. And keep in mind with these Dallas games, the Chicago game fell to 45 points, but the other games we saw 77 with the Giants, 80 in that tie with Green Bay, and then 59 points in the over. And remember, Dallas New York Jets was my best bet over the total last week on the show. So I'm going back to the well. Another over for the Dallas Cowboys. And I was on the over with Miami Carolina last week too. Both of them cashed. So yeah, over 49 is the way I'll play it here. Phil, what do you think, Dallas Carolina?
Yeah, I agree with you on the the offenses are clearly the superior units here. Dak Prescott is, it's no doubt he's playing at an NFL and MVP level right now. So, I'm just really kind of I'm rolling with the vibes of him right now, and he's just the engine that's keeping this thing rolling. I think the Panthers will definitely be able to move the ball and put up points, but I don't think Bryce Young's keeping up with Dak Prescott at this point. So I agree with you. I'm definitely hammering it over here, and I think the Cowboys are better than 3 against the Panthers here. But again, average to subpar teams, tough to tell here. But I think my feeling on this game is just that Dak Prescott is the best player on that field, and he's going to find a way no matter what. So I'm going Cowboys -3 here and an over.
You know what's interesting too about this game about Prescott, and I think it's another reason why we've really got to give him his props for the way he's playing. He's been without 3 key starting offensive linemen, the 3 Tylers.
Yeah.
Tyler, and Tyler. They're all named Tyler, by the way. Tyler Guyton, Tyler Smith, Tyler Booker. These 3 guys for the Dallas Cowboys. And they are 3 of their most important offensive linemen. All 3 of them. Tyler Booker, Tyler Smith, Tyler Guyton. And so he's had a makeshift offensive line to play behind Dak Prescott, especially the last couple of weeks, and still is able to make it work. And still is able to move the football. So, like I said, for now, you got to pump it, cut it out. Pump the brakes with the slander to Dak Prescott. Right now, he doesn't. He's playing very well for this team, and they've needed every bit of it with the defensive struggles, the defensive injuries, the offensive line injuries. And you got to give them credit for that. All right, Chargers and Dolphins. We've got the Chargers 4-point road favorites, rather, in Miami, 43.5 the total. I badly want to take the Chargers here because they're off a frustrating loss to the Commanders. I don't trust Miami. That's a bad football team. You're a bad football team when you blow a 17-0 lead to the Carolina Panthers. And that's exactly what Miami did last week. I think the Chargers are the better team. I trust Harbaugh more. Harbaugh long-term has got a decent track record on the road as well. ATS. I just don't know if I can lay 4, though, because of the O-line. The O-line is just so bad right now for the Chargers. They got so many problems with that offensive line. Rashawn Slater, Joe Alt, the left tackle, who is not, played great for them. Mekhi Becton. I mean, go on and on. There's just so many injuries right now for the Chargers on the offensive line, and it's having an impact. You look at that offense, you could hardly resemble it or recognize it against Washington last week. Like, Washington doesn't have a great defense. The Chargers are struggling to hit 20 points against that defense at home. So there's real problems for Justin Herbert right now because of – now we're talking about how Dak Prescott's overcoming his O-line injuries. Justin Herbert's not overcoming his right now because I think his are even worse.
Yeah.
Dallas is going through. I mean, this is – and they had the O-line injuries against the Giants too, these same injuries. And the same players out on the O-line. And what did they do against the Giants? They lost outright as favorites there and only scored 18 points. They've scored 28 points in 2 games combined since all these offensive line injuries accumulated. So it's not easy to say, yeah, let's lay 4 on the road, even against a bad Miami team and a bad Miami defense with these O-line injuries. So I'm probably going to have to pass. I probably am going to, because there's no way I'm touching Miami. I know that. It's just a question of, do I want to lay 4 with the Chargers? I don't think I can with the state of the O-line. Defense is hanging in there and still giving them a chance. Like, they played all right defense against the Giants. They played okay against Washington, but eventually you're going to get worn down when your offense can't move the football, and the O-line injuries are at the center of why the Chargers offense is struggling to move the football and put up points right now. So, and again, the same thing with the total. I can't bet a Charger game over right now, not with these O-line injuries, but do I want to bet a Miami game under with that defense? And obviously Tua and the offense still has some capabilities to move it, even without Tyreek Hill. So, yeah, that's just a game I'm probably going to stay off. You don't have to bet every game on the board. This might be the game that I just say, you know what, there's better bets to be made this week than this game. Phil, what do you think here? Chargers, Dolphins.
To be honest, I mean, I don't mean to just agree with you on every one here, but I genuinely agree here as well. This seems like a really weird game to think about, because you think about that Miami defense, but then you think about that, the Chargers O-line. Chargers coming off of 2 rough losses, though. I mean, you'd think that, they're going to come in there and, at least pull out a victory at this point. But 4 points, man, I don't know if I want to lay that with the Chargers either, with this offensive line. The total as well is really weird, especially with the Dolphins D-line, defense. But if honestly, I was thinking about this. If I think the Dolphins are going to be +4, I think this goes an over, just because I think that they're both going to kind of put up some points here to keep that thing rolling. But if this is a low-scoring game and the Chargers, cover 4 points, I think there's a clear under here, because I'm just betting on the fact that the Dolphins won't be able to move the ball, and the defense just won't be able to put enough pressure on Herbert. Weird one. I'd stay off it too. If you held a gun up to my head, I'm taking the Chargers -4 here, just based on the way Miami played last week. I think the ship is starting to sink under Mike McDaniels right now.
Oh, yeah. I mean, other than the one win against, and I mean a really bad New York Jets team, like, that's still their only win this season, Miami.
Right.
So, yeah, they are a bad team as well. The only reason is they beat a team that's even worse than they are, which is hard to believe. All right, next up, we've got San Francisco and Tampa Bay. This is the start of the late games, by the way, the 4 p.m. Eastern games. We've got Tampa Bay 3-point home favorites, 41.5 the total. Yeah, it's Bucks or nothing at -3 or better. I don't trust San Francisco. Now, I was on the Niners last week. See, this shows you how good I'm seeing the board, Phil. I was on the 49ers +9 against the Rams last Thursday. I know there were tons of injuries for the Niners. I get it. Mac Jones started, not Purdy. They were banged. Nick Bosa on defense. Defensive injuries, receiver injuries. I get it. But I just thought that number got inflated, in a division game, with the Rams laying 9, and I took the Niners, and sure enough, Niners win outright. And Mac Jones played the game of his life. What a fucking game that was by Mac Jones. He was phenomenal. He was taking hits and getting back up and going into the game, and he took a beating in that game, and yet kept coming back and throwing just these dimes and lighting up that Rams secondary. I mean, that was just the performance of his NFL career last week by Mac Jones. Give him all the credit. And look, he's actually played well, under Shanahan here. That's the thing. When you're with a Kyle Shanahan, he can make you look good with the scheme and with the prep that he puts in on offense. That being said, coming off that win, now you're going on the road, and Baker Mayfield and company, I like this offense a lot. Getting Tristan Wirfs back has really, really solidified that offensive line. It's playing a lot better. They're opening up holes for the run game. Now, I will say this. Bucky Irving is out. They're going to miss it. Now, Rachaad White's very capable, though, right? Let's not act like Rachaad White is chopped liver. But the way Bucky Irving was running the football, they're still going to miss him. But I think Rachaad White's capable, and the O-line has been played better. Emeka Egbuka has been amazing. I've got a ticket on him to win Rookie of the Year, and it's looking good right now. +600 I got on it. And like I said, I think he's got a real chance to win that. He's been just spectacular. And they've needed him to be, Philip, with Mike Evans out. Like, they have needed his contributions, Emeka Egbuka, and his chemistry with Baker Mayfield's been off the charts. I think this total's a bit light. With the way Mac Jones played last week, he's going to play again. Brock Purdy was out on the field practicing today, Philip, but it was light work. It was like a side session, so to speak. so it pretty much tells you he's not playing here. It's going to be Mac Jones again. And I know it's still Ricky Pearsall, questionable. Jawan Jennings, questionable. Still some injuries for the Niners. But they got all these other guys stepping up against the Rams last week. And like I said, sometimes receivers, you can get them to step up. It's the trench play that I get more concerned with, all the injuries that mount. But last week against the Rams, even without these guys, Kendrick Bourne to be alive. Kendrick Bourne had a huge game. 10 receptions, 142 receiving yards. Demarcus Robinson stepped up. The fullback, Kyle Juszczyk. How about the tight end that's playing for an injured Kittle? Jake Thompson. He's played well for them. So they're just finding other weapons to step up. Jones showed that even with tons of receivers out, best tight end out, Kittle, he could still move the football, and these other guys stepped up and played well. I think they can move the ball a bit on this Tampa defense on the road, and I think Tampa moves the football in San Francisco, because San Francisco's defense, without Bosa, there wasn't a lot of pass rush there consistently against Stafford last week, especially as that game went on. And we know Mayfield's elusive too and can run. So even if the pass rush gets there, and I have my doubts it will, but even if it does, Mayfield can escape, make plays with his legs. So I think this total is just way too light, 41.5. I like over. I think they're overcompensating for no Purdy and all these injuries for San Francisco as far as why this total is. And I felt it was low last week against the Rams too, that the total just fell too low. It just dropped too low. It was too much of a push to the under because of no Purdy, all these injuries on offense for San Francisco. And what did we have in that Rams Niners game? 49 points last week. Obviously, we saw 73 points in the Seahawks-Bucks game last week. So, yeah, I think 41.5 is too low. Phil, what do you think? 49ers-Bucks.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you on that as well. We're they're overcompensating for those injuries for sure. And in terms of just picking a winner here.
My bad. I've got 40. That's better. Okay. Now I got to correct myself. This total is 47.5. I was looking at.
Oh, geez. Okay.
Now that's the difference. Now that's where this number. I still think it can get over that, but obviously it's not the value that 41. I was looking at the wrong game. My bad there.
Oh,
everybody.
No problem.
The total is 47.5 for this San Francisco Tampa game. I still like it over. I think it can get there still.
Well, hey, I'm just looking at the Buccaneers, and you know what? I'll preface this by saying, look, it's not easy to win in the NFL. So Buccaneers 3-point win versus the Seahawks, 6-point loss to the Eagles, 2-point win versus the Jets, 1-point win versus the Texans, 3-point win versus the Falcons. I mean, I think plus 3 49ers, I think that's looking pretty good actually on the 49ers case, because I like Kyle Shanahan. I like the way he's calling plays, and I like the way these guys are stepping up. And the Buccaneers defense clearly hasn't been playing very well lately. So I'm still taking an over here, and I actually feel pretty good about the 49ers at plus 3 here. I think the Bucs might still win, but just history of this season so far, I mean, a lot of close games, a lot of Baker Mayfield magic down the stretch here. Baker Mayfield, man, for MVP, I think but he's looking pretty damn good as well. So, and I love watching Baker. He reminds me of Brett Favre.
Yeah, he is gunslinger, right? And got a little attitude too.
Yeah, I love his attitude.
Yeah, he doesn't take any shit from anybody. You're talking about, and it's kind of weird with this point spread being 3, right? Like, it's hard to bet against Tampa because they're finding ways to win. But to your point about how you like San Francisco with the 3.5, especially if you can find it, look at these margins of victory in the 4 wins for Tampa Bay. They beat Atlanta by 3, and they needed a missed field goal at the end. 1-point win against Houston, 2-point win against the New York Jets, a bad New York Jets team, and then the 3-point win against Seattle. They haven't won a game by more than 3 points this year.
Yeah.
There you go. So while Tampa's winning, they haven't won by margin in any game. So that maybe is, I could see it, why maybe you're veering toward the Niners. As a road underdog. All right, next up, we've got Tennessee and Las Vegas. Raiders minus 4.5, 41.5 the total. There's not a chance I'm laying any points with Las Vegas. I can't do it. I mean, they're that bad right now. The only exception to that would be if you could tell me maybe Geno Smith gets benched, maybe I'll change my mind. But it's not good right now for Geno. 2 interceptions again last week. Obviously, a lot of the yards he had 228 yards. Most of those were the end of the game in garbage time. And now, of course, they have a new starting center as well. Their starting center's injured. Brock Bowers probably is going to miss another game at tight end. Their O-line stinks right now, the Las Vegas Raiders. I can't even say enough how bad it's been on that offensive line for the Las Vegas Raiders. Poor Ashton Jeanty. It's just struggle for him to get things going, and I'm not even blaming him. I'm blaming a lack of a passing game that's working, Geno's mistakes, interceptions, and, of course, an offensive line that's just not doing a good enough job right now. I mean, 67 rushing yards on 14 carries last week for Ashton Jeanty. So it's just everything for the Raiders offense that's in shambles right now. I could only look at Tennessee plus 4.5 because they're not good either. They're a bad team, but now, and they got the break of a lifetime. The DeMercado fumble at dropping the ball at the goal line, as we talked about, changed that game totally. Tennessee was going to get blown out, and then all of a sudden they come back and win. They're still a bad team. There's still issues with their offensive line. Their defense is hung in there, and maybe their defense can thrive here because the Raiders' offense has been that bad, and their O-line is that bad. So I do lean Titans, but here's the thing, Phil. I still think the Titans are a bad team. I think their coach is an idiot. Brian Callahan. I don't like what I'm seeing out of him, and I don't like betting bad teams off a win. Bad teams off a win usually do not follow it up with another win and another win. So that's my hesitation to take Tennessee, but I would take the points before I lay them here. Phil, what do you think? Titans, Raiders.
Yeah, this is just a total pass game for me. Just two bad teams. Tough to get a read here, but I kind of low-key agree with you as well on this one. I think the Titans, at least they have a little bit of momentum going. Cam Ward, God, dude, I was gonna say that he makes some good throws, man, but he got some luck, some major luck last week as well. I don't think that. He doesn't have help from Brian Callahan, that's for sure. But I think there's a few boneheaded things he does as well. He hangs onto the ball. That offense is atrocious. Titans defense looked decent, in certain moments, in that game. Raiders, just a total dumpster fire. Tough to back them as well. You know what? If anything, yeah, I'd lean Titans here as well. And man, but this is just a total pass game for me. This isn't a good spot to look at either of these teams and feel confident enough for me anyway.
I get it. There's actually 3 teams worse than Tennessee's defense for yards per play allowed on defense this year. So
yeah,
the worst defense, Tennessee. There have been worse. But like I said, just a lean here. I don't know if I can stomach getting to the window with Tennessee, but I would just prefer them rather than laying it with this Raiders team at the moment. All right, Patriots and Saints. We've got New England 3.5-point road favorites, 46 total. What a win for New England and Sunday Night Football in Buffalo against the Bills. Drake May, what a performance. He outplayed Josh Allen. That's hard to do, especially in Buffalo. But Drake May did that last week. He was terrific in that game. And the defense was opportunistic, got some turnovers, made some stops when they needed. And Mike Vrabel's got this New England team kind of believing a little bit and buying in. And here they are now after that huge win against the Buffalo Bills, now at 3-2. On the season, above 500. The only concern is you're off a huge win like that against the Bills. Do the Patriots have the maturity and the poise to put that behind them and say, let's refocus and let's keep it going here? Or do they have a letdown after that big win against the Bills? That's the question. I want to back the Patriots. I think there's money to be made on the Patriots. I think they're an undervalued squad. I think there's so much to like. The defense is coming around since getting Christian Gonzalez back. Secondary played better. They got some difference maker. That Milton Williams was a great offseason addition for that D-line to plug it up in the middle. He's done a great job. Vrabel's a great coach. We know that. Can turn teams around. He did it in Tennessee. The offense with May, even with, the offensive line's better this year. Receiving core's not deep, but he's making good with what he's got with Diggs and company. Diggs was great against his old team. That was a great bet last week. Diggs props against his old team in his return to Buffalo. Should have known he'd have a big game there, but the only concern is a potential letdown spot. That's the only thing that was why I'm not on New England as of yet, but I do lean that way here. Phil, what do you think? Patriots, Saints?
Hey, look, man, a wise man once said that don't bet bad teams after wins, and I think New Orleans Saints is a bad team. And
That's
last
true.
week,
First win, they celebrated like they won the damn
yeah,
Super Bowl. Kellen Moore and all that,
exactly.
win one for the coach. He got his first win. Yeah, you're right. Bad
Exactly.
team on the
So,
win.
you know what? I think that's kind of where I'm leaning here. I think the Patriots are an actual good team, which, again, best bet there. Good pick. I cashed that one last week.
Patriots team total over. Yes, Philip Nelson's best
Yep.
bet last week.
So that was pretty good. And I referenced that Drake May, Stephon Diggs connection there. Clearly, there's, Stephon Diggs is coming back and they got a connection. I think that Drake May just needed a veteran receiver to help him out, especially after last year, just not having a ton of weapons and just kind of still figuring things out, being, a rookie and everything. But I think that this is a Saints hangover. I think the Patriots are hitting their stride. Statement win last week. I'm rolling with the Patriots here. And what's their team total this week?
That could be the option too. If you don't love laying the 3.5 with New England, you could go with over 20.5 with New England. Or no, sorry, that's New Orleans team total. New England's is 25.5.
25.5. Okay. I mean, I like that. And the Saints defense isn't anything spectacular. So I'm leaning Patriot. Man, I'm hammering the Patriots. I like the way they're playing right now. So, Patriots minus 3.5 for me. I would probably go with the Patriots over as well.
Yeah, you're right. It's bad. First win of the year for the Saints against the Giants. But let's be honest. I watched a good chunk of that game. Giants beat themselves every bit as much as the Saints beat them. That's
right.
All the turnovers, right? Even Dart turned it over once when he was running with it. So, like I said, without those turnovers, Giants may win that game.
I also called that Saints win too, if you remember. I was like, I just feel like the Saints are going to win this one, man. They're due. They're due.
Yeah, you did. It was the right spot for them. That's true, especially with the Giants coming off the big win in Dart's debut against the Chargers, and it did pan out well. Yeah, that's what's happening right now. We're both seeing it right now pretty well in the NFL. We've had a lot of good calls on this show in recent weeks, and hopefully that continues here. All right, your Packers up at Lambeau, Cincinnati, and Green Bay. The debut of Joe Flacco. I know everyone's excited about that here for the Bengals. And actually, Jordan Love was talking in the media earlier this week how crazy it is that now all of a sudden him and his Packers have to face Joe Flacco again. They thought they were done with him. They played him against Cleveland. They played Cleveland a few weeks ago with Joe Flacco. And that's the game they lost, obviously, a stunner. They just blew it at the end. And now they got to deal with Joe Flacco again, this time as a member of the other Ohio NFL team, the Cincinnati Bengals. Green Bay, 14.5-point home favorites, 44.5 the total in this game. There's no chance I bet Cincinnati. But really, 14.5 with Green Bay?
Right?
Do it, right? I just don't know if I can do that. And the one thing Flacco, I was going to say Flacco won't turn it over he won't treat the football like a fucking hand grenade like Jake Browning has with all the interceptions and all the turnovers. That being said, when Green Bay's defense is on and that pass rush, now, is Parsons 100% healthy? I thought he didn't do a lot in the Dallas game, a couple weeks ago for the Packers are off a bye too. It's worth noting that. So they're off a bye, and that frustrating tie, against the Dallas Cowboys, and that was after the loss to Cleveland. So, it's been a frustrating couple weeks for Green Bay. The loss to Cleveland, the tie to Dallas, where they probably should have won that game. So you got to expect they're going to be focused. They're going to be angry, and they could win this by 3 touchdowns. It wouldn't shock me. But Matt LaFleur's not a guy I love trusting in this kind of price range. Not consistently. And special teams issues for the Packers, too, we've seen in the last couple of weeks. Block kicks, block punts, block field goals. They had the block extra point return for 2 points in the Dallas game 2 weeks ago. So, and now Jordan Love could light up this Bengals defense. They're terrible. They're awful again. Al Golden, we were starting to get excited early in the year that, hey, they were starting to look a little better, the Cincy defense, but they've fallen on hard times again. 48 allowed to Minnesota, 28 to Denver, 37 to Detroit last week. They haven't even been competitive. Like, Flacco is an upgrade. That's why they went and got Flacco. It's desperation for Zach Taylor. I think he feels he might be out of a job if they have a bad year and this year goes south. You could say if that's fair or not when you have Joe Burrow who's by far your best quarterback. but still, he feels the pressure to win. That's why they went out and they got Joe Flacco. And say what you will about Joe Flacco in his 40s, but he still might be better right now for this team than Browning. That's how bad it had gotten with Jake Browning. But still, the O-line's shaky for Cincy. If Rashawn Gary and Micah Parsons and that group up front get home, which they're capable of, this is going to be a long day for Cleveland's offense, or Cincinnati's offense, I should say, in this game. And which Packer defense is showing up, though? Because the one on the road against Dallas, it's like, what happened to Packers defense against Dallas? They were awful in that game, giving up the 40 points. And the Cleveland game on the road's not that impressive. But then when they were at home, they faced Jared Goff and they faced Washington.
Jayden Daniels.
Yeah. And they looked awesome. Through 2 weeks against Detroit and Washington to begin the season, they looked like they were in the running for one of the best defenses in the NFL, Green Bay. So is it a product of, well, they're only a great defense at home, and now they're back home at Lambeau Field. They're going to look like the defense again that they showed against Detroit and Washington in those first 2 games. Like, those were damn good quarterbacks and offenses. Look what Detroit's offense has done since that Green Bay loss.
Right.
What they've done since then. They've been putting up points in bunches. They can't be stopped. So I kind of lean to laying the points, honestly, with Green Bay. I kind of feel like we can get back to that Packer defense that looked good against Detroit and Washington at Lambeau in the first 2 weeks of the season. Because to be honest, if they shut down Detroit and Washington at home in those first 2 games, how can we not expect them to shut down Joe Flacco and this offensive line that's been porous at times for Cincinnati all year? So
yeah,
I think it could get ugly. I just don't know if I have the guts to lay this many points with a Matt LaFleur coach team, because long-term he has not been great in this massive double-digit favorite role. But what do you think here, Phil? They're your team. What do you think? Bengals, Packers?
I thought about it and I was like, when a team is that desperate where they go out and get, a decent quarterback, veteran guy, has been around for a while, they have these receivers, it's kind of like, sometimes like out of desperation, it's almost like you're like, your fuck it kind of kicks in. You're like, fuck it, we're not expected to win this thing. And then you kind of go out and play pretty well. My only issue is this offensive line is so bad, and this Packers D line should get all over. Then on top of that, throw into the fact that just the basic fact that Flacco has to go and learn, an offense and get on the same page with all these receivers and everything like that.
Like, what, 3-4 days? Yeah.
Yeah, and then couple that with a Bengals defense that's just atrocious as well. Man, I don't feel great about it, but I think the Packers can cover this. I think they can go minus 14.5. I really do. I think that coming off the bye, being at home once again, I think this is just a real. Oh man, I don't know. I'm thinking about it because anytime we have these, and don't get me wrong, I think the Packers win this game, but. Is you're right. Is LaFleur going to be historic? Do what he always does and, screw something up and let it kind of be closer? Is this going to be something where the Bengals are able to pull within, 13 late with empty calories? Who knows? And this is probably a pass for me. But you know what? I'll put minus 14.5 on the Packers here just because I think that they need to. They need to come out and dominate this game.
Well, and they did win. They didn't win by double digits, but they against Washington, but they did win by 14 against Detroit that first game of the season. Like I said, I'm with you. That's not
at home.
No part of Cincinnati do I want. It's just a question of do I take Green Bay, and I'm on the fence. I'm on the fence. I know there's numbers out there that show ATS Matt LaFleur is a double-digit favorite as head coach of the Packers, has a losing record. ATS.
Really?
So, yeah. But I'd still consider it. Like, I
think these circumstances just make it a little bit more appealing than usual for me, anyway.
Yeah, no doubt. If you were in Joe Flacco's shoes, you'd be just scrambling right now, right? Learning a new offense, brand new team, all of a sudden, and in 2-3 days, you got to face this team on the road, which could get a pass rush.
Couple that with travel. Now you have to travel. You don't get as much meeting time. It's not an ideal situation to be in. I'm actually really surprised that they're going to start him, right away. I thought that Browning would get one more chance here.
It's because I think they've run out of patience with Browning. That's how bad it's gotten for him the last few weeks, and they figure anything's a better option right now. All right, we got 3 games left. The primetime games over the weekend. Sunday Night Football. This is a dandy. Detroit and Kansas City. Chiefs 2.5-point home favorites. 53 the total in this game. Well, we thought Kansas City was back on track with the back-to-back wins. But you factor in those wins were against the Giants when Russell Wilson was still starting, and he was terrible on that Sunday night game against the Chiefs a few weeks ago for the Giants. And then they played a Baltimore team that can't stop anybody. They couldn't stop Philip Nelson and Ian Cameron with receiving passes from Philip Nelson right now. That's how bad the Baltimore defense is right now. And obviously Kansas City made mincemeat out of it. Those were the 2 wins. So we can't really give the Chiefs too much credit, right? Giants with Russell Wilson, and then the Baltimore team that's ravaged. Those were the 2 wins after they started 0-3. And then sure enough against Jacksonville, probably a step up from the Giants and from an injury-riddled Baltimore team, and they couldn't beat Jacksonville. They had opportunities, but can't get a stop late. Trevor Lawrence played great. Got to give the Jaguars a lot of credit, but you also have to give the Chiefs a little grief for not finding a way to win that game. They're supposed to be the kings of close games, the Chiefs. They never lose a close game. What's happened all of a sudden? Starting to lose some of these close games.
Giving them the games.
Yeah. Isn't it nice to see the pendulum swinging, right? Chargers game was winnable, but they lost that game. It was a close game. Obviously, the Jacksonville game last week was winnable. They lose. So suddenly, the 50-50 coin flip games, and all of them for years seem to be going Kansas City's way. All of a sudden, they're not going Kansas City's way nearly as much. The Eagle game, where they lost 20-17 as well. So that's 3 losses by 6 points or less. In games decided by 6 points or less last year, 2 years ago, they were unbeatable, Kansas City. Now, all of a sudden, they can't buy a close win. So I lean Detroit here. I just think they're playing too well. They're cooking on offense with Goff, with Montgomery and Gibbs, the running backs, Amon-Ra, St. Brown, and this receiving, Jameson Williams. You go on down the list, and obviously Sam Laporta, the tight end. Their O-line, after having some concerns going into the year, they've gotten better as the season's gone. And this defense is playing well, and Aiden Hutchinson, man, is a terror right now. Absolute terror. And the one problem with Kansas City is their tackles are still concerning, right? The left tackle's a rookie. And, he's been banged up a little bit, and he hasn't played great. And that's a concern when you're going up against a Hutchinson and a couple guys that can get after the quarterback for Detroit. So it's either Lions or nothing for me here, especially with this number being – it might even get to 3. And if it does, I think it'll definitely be on Detroit. Probably will be anyway, but, yeah, I think Detroit's actually the better team right now. And they'll be up for playing in Kansas City. Against the Chiefs. Everyone's, the Chiefs always get everybody's best effort. Why did Jacksonville win Monday night? Because Jacksonville treated that like a litmus test game. Same thing here with Detroit probably. So, yeah, Lions are pass for me. Total's pretty high, 53. I like my overs, but I think this total's a little bit high. What do you think here, Phil? Detroit, Kansas City.
Yeah, I think blood's in the water for the Chiefs right now. Teams are figuring out that they're beatable, and the Chiefs just make too many mistakes. And I think that the Lions are the type of a team that capitalizes on mistakes. They're a well-coached team, obviously. Offense is on fire. Defense has come a long way from last year. Granted, they had all those injuries. But Chiefs offense still looks kind of in shambles. They don't look fluid. They don't really look like they're operating on all cylinders here. I think this Lions defense takes advantage of some mistakes from the Kansas City offense. I think this win here will put the Lions in discussion for one of the best teams in the NFL. And I think the Chiefs, man, I think that they have a lot more issues than what we initially thought here. So I'm a heavy Lions guy here, plus 2.5. I think this total's too high. I don't think that the Chiefs are going to put up that many points. And I think that the Lions, once they get a good lead on them, they're going to kind of pound the rock, just keep them off the field. So there's a formula here with the Chiefs, and I know that Chiefs haven't been playing, particularly well offensively, but nobody wants to mess with them. I think the Lions get a lead, and then they start to pound the rock on them with the 2-headed monster. So Lions in and under for me.
All right, there you have it. That's a good one, though, on Sunday night. And Detroit won in Kansas City a couple years ago, 21-20. So they've already gone in, Dan Campbell and Jared Goff, into Kansas City and beaten this Chiefs team. We'll see if they can do it again on Sunday night. All right, we have a Monday night football doubleheader, and one of the two games is Buffalo, Atlanta. Bills 4.5-point road favorites, 49.5 the total. Bills off a very frustrating loss to New England. They played sloppy, penalties, turnovers. Josh Allen had, very poor game by his standards, and we hold him to a high, lofty standard, don't we, Philip? And that for him, he didn't even come close to meeting that standard last week. So I wouldn't want to bet against a pissed off Josh Allen, and he sounded pissed off. So it's Bills lean for me. Their defense is concerning, though, for the Bills. I don't know if I want to lay 4.5. I'd feel like I maybe put them in a parlay or two of some kind, but I wouldn't want to step in front of Buffalo in this spot. Now, I will say this. Let's see if they get some of their injuries on defense back, because, Ed Oliver was once again out last week. They missed him on the D-line. New England was able to move the football on them. Atlanta's offense has kind of been Jekyll and Hyde. They've had some terrible games, and they've had some great games. They're coming off a great game 2 weeks ago against Washington, 34-27, after being shut out by Carolina 30-0. They're off a bye week too, so extra time to prepare for the Falcons. That's another reason too why I haven't bet Buffalo yet. I lean that way, but 4.5 on the road, and a team that they're playing is coming off a bye week. There's enough there to make me maybe pump the brakes with the Bills, but I lean in their direction still. I get that feeling. Josh Allen was ticked off after that New England loss. He plays well here. What do you think here, Phil? Bills, Falcons?
Yeah, I agree. I think that Josh Allen, coming off that loss, he's going to be out on a revenge tour. He's going to give them everything he can. My only thing is, being on the road, a little bit different, but it's an indoor stadium. I think that he's going to offensively, Bills will be fine. It's that defense I'm just kind of worried about, man. I think that the Bills defense, and if they can get some of those injuries back, we'll see. But for me here, this is just more so about me being on the side with Josh Allen as opposed to, Michael Penix. I don't see it from him right now. I think this Falcons team's a little bit inconsistent all over the place here. Man, I think the Bills come out there and they do what they need to do. I think that they can get 4.5 here on a Falcons team that's been all over the board this year. So I'm going to go with Josh Allen and -4.5 here. I think this total is a little high just because I don't trust in the Falcons offense though. But Bills defense again.
The biggest concern with Buffalo, and I didn't mention this a moment ago, I'll mention it now. The secondary struggled. The run defense has really struggled.
Yeah.
For the Bills. And Milano played last week, but he was not 100%. You could tell.
Right.
Ed Oliver was still out. And teams have run the football on, but Buffalo has given up 145.6 per game on the ground.
Yeah.
Yards, 28, 5.6 yards per carry, 30th in the NFL. And guess who they have to deal with here? Bijan Robinson. Oh, yeah.
Right. So, geez. Yeah. Maybe I will pick Bills in an over here then because, Bills' run defense is just not it. And Bijan, he can explode. He's a home run hitter. So, you know what? Let's go with an over here. But I'm still taking Bills.
I think so, too. I think I'm leaning over more, even more than the Bills here. And Penix, I think in that dome, he can probably play okay against, let's be honest, Bills' defense has got some cracks in it right now. But I think the offense can move it against Atlanta's defense. I do. Because remember, last time we saw Atlanta, it was a shootout with Washington. They weren't stopping, and that was Mariota.
Yeah.
Mariota was at quarterback 2 weeks ago for Washington. They weren't stopping him. So I think, this could turn into a bit of a shootout, in my opinion, here.
Yeah.
Bills and Falcons. All right, last game for this Week 6 slate. It's the second game on the Monday night doubleheader. Second game of the Monday night doubleheader. Chicago, Washington. Washington 4.5-point home favorites, 49.5 the total. There's coaches you like. There's coaches you don't like. The coaches you like, you often want to make a case to bet on them coming off a bye week. And I feel like I'm going to do that here with Ben Johnson. I know he's a rookie head coach, but he's coming off a bye here for Chicago. They beat the Raiders 25-24. They actually won 2 games in a row going into the bye week. After starting 0-2, they're now 2-2. Dallas and Las Vegas are flawed teams. I get it. But still, it was 2 wins in a row for Chicago. Caleb Williams started to look like he was playing better, getting more comfortable in the offense, which was good to see. Obviously, DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, stepped up and DeAndre Swift's made some plays running the football. The O-line's played better. Coming off a bye week, extra time to prepare, chance to get some of those injuries back. Definitely a good spot for Chicago. Washington, meanwhile, coming off the 27-10 road win against the banged-up Chargers. We talked about the offensive line struggled for the Chargers. I don't know if that's a great ringing endorsement of the Washington defense. Yeah, they played great against the Chargers, but the Chargers were compromised, Philip. We've talked about that earlier in the show. The O-line's just in the shambles for the Chargers. So I don't think you want to go overboard giving the Commanders too much praise for that defensive performance last week. So I think Chicago's worth a look here. Coming off the bye week, they're getting 4.5. Do we trust the Commanders laying points? Actually at home, they've played well. They beat the Giants 21-6. They beat the Raiders 41-24. The Bears are a little bit better than those two teams, in my opinion. And that was Giants with Russell Wilson, which means it's not just who you play, it's when you play them. The Giants with Jackson Dart would be higher in my power ratings than the Giants with Russell Wilson, and it's not even debatable. So you can't. This is what another handicapper taught me a long time ago. In the NFL, when you're handicapping it, you see two teams have played the same team. Sometimes those wins aren't created equal. A win for a team against the Giants with Jackson Dart means a hell of a lot more to me than a win for a team against the New York Giants with Russell Wilson. You have to rate the one win stronger than the other. Right. Big time. So beating the Giants with Russell Wilson for Washington in week 1, that's, it doesn't do anything for me. Beating the Raiders, who can't get out of their own way for Washington at home, doesn't do anything for me. So, yeah, they're 2-0 straight up, 2-0 against the spread at home this year, the Commanders. But I think the Bears are better than the version of the Raiders we saw, and certainly better than the Russell Wilson version of the Giants we saw play in Washington earlier this year. And I like them off a bye. Good spot. I'll take my chances. Da Bears plus 4.5. What do you think here, Philip? Chicago, Washington.
Yeah, Ben Johnson coming off a bye here kind of gets you guys rested up. And I agree. The Washington home victories aren't that impressive. They don't do anything for me either. I'm willing to take a shot here. I think the Bears are coming around a little bit more. Especially offensively, I think that they're starting to kind of hit a stride there. They seem a little bit more fluid. Just again, I think Ben Johnson here, I really think that plus 4.5, I think he can keep it close here, if not win on the road here. Jaden Daniels is still kind of, coming back here from injury. He looked obviously pretty good last weekend. So, we'll see here, but yeah, I'm solely placing this bet on the fact that I think that the Bears offense are going to perform under Ben Johnson here. So I'm going Bears as well.
I do think Washington's defense is a little bit better than it was last year. I definitely believe that. But, like I said, I think there's been some it's broke right for the Commanders. You faced Russell Wilson's Giants. You faced the Raiders, and it was not. And Geno's struggled. You faced the Chargers with a banged-up offensive line last week. So I think the defense is kind of feasted on good situations for them. That's why Chicago with the extra time. Oh, another thing I forgot to mention. Hail Mary revenge, maybe.
Oh, yeah.
Chicago Bears. They lost to this Commanders team last year, the Hail Mary by Jaden Daniels. That's the game that basically turned the season into a disaster for the Bears were actually in the playoff race last year going into that Washington game. And then the Hail Mary by Jaden Daniels at the end to beat the Bears, and the Bears collapsed after that. And Matt Eberflus loses his job. So, little redemption tour maybe for that loss against Washington last year on the Hail Mary by Jaden Daniels. Great stuff. What a show. With always good to talk NFL with Philip Nelson. Let's wrap it up with best bets. I mean, obviously best bets, 2-0 sweep last week. We will certainly do our best to provide an encore here in week 6. Phil, we'll start with you. What do you like for best bet?
You know what? Initially, I was feeling pretty good about this Cowboys-Panthers over. But then I looked at the weather in Charlotte for Sunday, and it's like a 65% chance of rain. And you always say it's more so about wind. It's 15-mile-an-hour winds in Charlotte on Sunday. So I kind of, I was teetering between that and a 49ers Buccaneers over. It's supposed to be 83 5-mile-per-hour winds in Tampa on Sunday. You know what? I think Baker is going to go out there and light it up like as he has been. I think the Bucs defense is going to give up some points to the 49ers as well. I know I picked 49ers +3, but I'm feeling really good about this over at 47.5 on that game. I think Mac Jones can go out and do it. The 49ers have people that are stepping up right now. And I think that that total has been kind of swayed, but just with the injuries a little bit. So 47.5 over, 49ers Buccaneers for me.
All right, there we go. 49ers Bucs over 47.5. I apologize for putting the wrong number there on the screen. It was not 41.5. It was never 41.5. 47.5 the total there for San Francisco, Tampa Bay for Philip Nelson with his best bet. My best bet for this card, I'm going to go with the team total. Indianapolis team total over 27.5. They've hit this number in every home game this year. The Colts, they've looked great offensively in every home game with Daniel Jones at quarterback. I'm not convinced things are all right with Arizona. I think Indianapolis can once again get to that 28+ mark here in this game as far as points are concerned. Let's rock with it. And by the way, if the Colts team total over 3-0, perfect 3-0 in their home games this year, going over their team total. So I like what I'm seeing from the offense. Don't trust the Arizona defense to shut them down. Indianapolis team total over 27.5. The price on that is -110. Let's go with that for best bet for this NFL Week 6 edition of Ian Cameron's Football Frenzy. Great stuff once again, Philip. These are awesome, fun doing these shows every week, talking NFL with you. Anything you want to add before we wrap it up?
Enjoy, folks. We had a great one last night, and I think that we have some interesting things to see this weekend as well. So enjoy, grab yourself some beers, and see you next week.
And Philip saying lay it with his beloved Green Bay Packers here in this against the Cincinnati Bengals. We'll see. They're certainly blowoutable. Is that a word? Blowoutable? The Cincinnati Bengals right now.
Oh, geez. I mean, I'm telling you, if Flacco goes in there and in that quick of a turnaround can go out and keep it close, that's impressive, man. So we'll see.
Yeah, it's not just him keeping it close and him playing well. Can the offensive line keep that 40-year-old man up?
Yeah.
Against Parsons, Rashawn Gary and company. That's going to – and you got to think, too, the bye week helps Parsons a little bit as far as is concerned. No question. And maybe he'll be on the field for more snaps this week, too, as a result. So something to keep an eye on there for sure. Great stuff. Great show. We hope you all enjoyed it. Hit the like button on the way out. For Philip Nelson, I'm Ian Cameron. This has been your NFL Week 6 edition of Ian Cameron's Football Frenzy. Enjoy the games and good luck. And we'll see you again next week for another edition of Ian Cameron's Football Frenzy.